everyone. This is W, aka William, host of the High Art on the Edge page, host of 2 podcast features. The first one is known as PCE. What does that stand for? Post Concert Energy. And the one you're listening to right now is called Surprise Cast. Tonight, you're in for a very special treat. Why? We're going to keep it local here in the Bay Area. Very special, very excited to speak with the band that I finally saw for the first time a month ago. We'll talk about that. Some new songs. The band is known as Halou. But I want to start off with a little introduction here. I was an elementary school teacher for many years here in the Bay Area, Portola Valley, right outside Palo Alto. And at that time, I was teaching 4th graders, young, impressionable 4th graders. I often used music in my classroom whilst they were working on projects, when we were stretching. We also did a lot of singing with a lot of the music that I incorporated. Well, I came across this album called Wholeness and Separation. And I decided to bring it to the classroom. And I listened to it first. And I thought this music would be fantastic for when the kids are working on projects or they're working on solo stuff and the classroom kind of needs to come to a chill. That album was played all the time. And I loved it because it did just what I was looking for. It had that effect, a very calming effect, and provided a nice ambiance for those students. So this is my introduction to tonight's conversation. Let us welcome Halou. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Can you reveal your full name to our listeners, please?
Yeah, I'm Rebecca Lynn Cosboom.
And who is sitting next to you, Rebecca?
I don't know, he'll have to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Ryan Cosboom.
Rebecca and Ryan, thank you so much for being part of Surprise Cast. Before we get into kind of the belly of your work as musicians with this band that's been around for quite some time now, I want to throw out a few icebreaker questions. And since it's October, why don't we start with some early Halloween memories? Anything you want to share. Could be a favorite costume, could be a horrible Halloween night you had with friends and or family. Anything. Rebecca? I'm going to set that one up.
Yeah, sure. One year our kids dressed up as a ghost and Toast. So one of them was Toast and one of them was a ghost. And I genuinely don't understand it still. But they were really cute. And so they would go up to the door and trick or treat, and then they'd be like, wow, look at your creative costumes. What are you? It was just, yeah. So anyway, that's all I've got.
But still very indelible because you were able to rattle that off in seconds.
Yeah. And they were really, really cute.
What age were they?
Gosh, Olivia must have been 6, which means Simon was 9.
Okay. What kind of toast?
Literally just a piece of toast. Yeah, and that was, I think, the same year that he had the birthday where it was a goat. What was it? Goat toast chocolate cake. So for his birthday, like the theme was goat toast or chocolate cake. And there was like a game about it too that he made up. So it was a whole thing.
I wonder if they remember that.
I'll have to ask him. Yeah.
You should.
He's a gentleman now.
Ryan, what about for you? The early childhood memories?
I remember one year when I was a kid, I wanted to be a Ghostbuster. And so, we didn't have a lot of money or I don't even know if my mom really knew what a Ghostbuster was. She didn't watch movies. So she just got her vacuum cleaner out of the closet and put some straps on it. And I wore her vacuum on my back and
Obviously a canister vac.
and I held the thing, and that was my Ghostbusters costume.
You can't.
Or a canister vacuum as a backpack.
And I remember being really tired, like halfway through the day.
Because it was really heavy.
Oh my! So, where did you grow up, Ryan?
I grew up in eastern Los Angeles.
Okay. Until when?
We moved from there when I was 12. We moved to the high desert, so near Victorville.
Okay.
And then a few years after that, I moved up to Santa Cruz, and then slowly made my way up to San Francisco.
And growing up in eastern Los Angeles, have you been back there recently? Do you have any connections there still?
Yeah, my mom still lives in the house she was raised in. And, I was sort of raised there also. So I have a very deep connection there. I didn't like a lot of things about it when I was younger, just like maybe we all do. But yeah, I like it now. I like going down there. I like my family a lot, but a lot of times when I go down there, I actually enjoy downtown LA and Hollywood now. I didn't when I was younger. I was a very angry young man. Now I appreciate it for what it is, and I have a good time. There's a kind of like a miniature Las Vegas almost.
Sure. So for the podcast listeners, if you don't mind, Ryan, they might be thinking Eastern Los Angeles. So specifically, where are you talking about?
Well, when I say Los Angeles, I mean Los Angeles County.
Yeah.
So I was born in San Dimas, which is where Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure took place.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I where the LA County Fair is, and when I would go to school, we could hear the Winter Nationals, the NHRA drag races. We went to those every year. So it was, it was the very suburban part of Los Angeles, but still very LA, very typical Southern California scenery.
What'd your parents do?
My mom was a mom.
Yeah.
I grew up with a stepdad. My stepdad worked for Miller Brewing Company, which was in Irwindale, so it was, we were just a very working class family. We had a blast. I had a stepbrother that's literally 3 weeks younger than I am. So I grew up with my best friend.
Right.
Then we had a couple other brothers and sisters. It was just, I look back on it. It was such a, almost like a Steven Spielberg like kind of situation. Obviously there were ups and downs, but it was, it was a very 80s, little boy in Southern California kind of Star Wars, baseball, skateboarding, music, all that stuff.
Sounds very pleasant.
I'd say that's a good way to characterize it overall. And like I said, there were some dark times, but I don't think about those very much.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, giving us a little bit of understanding on where you came from. So, Rebecca, what about you? Yeah.
Oh, sure. So, I'm actually from Marin. I grew up, well, kinda. I wasn't born here. And which is weird because people who are from California, they get really uptight when you say you're from California if you're not actually born in California. So I was born in Boston, but I didn't really live there. My parents were, I don't know, they were working there for a little while. My parents were divorced when I was 11 months old. And so my mother eventually, when I was in kindergarten, and when we moved we were in upstate New York. When we moved from upstate New York to California, they put me into first grade. So it was in the mid-year, but they just skipped grades mid-year, which is weird. I know it's weird. So I was in kindergarten and then all of a sudden I was in first grade. And so I finished first grade and then, went into second grade. But so we lived in San Francisco, and my mother, she was a career woman, and she was really, really motivated, and she was really intelligent. And she was a registered nurse who got her doctorate in education. So she was an RN EDD, and she got a job at UCSF. And UCSF is amazing. So if you get a job at UCSF and you're in the medical profession, that's pretty cool, right? So she had to do it. She had to move out here. And my father's still in New Jersey, and he's actually still alive. He's still with us, and I try to visit him at least once a year. But, I haven't ever really been terrifically super close with him just because of the distance. But I do have 2 half sisters that are out there. So anyway, I grew up out here in New Jersey, and in not New Jersey. My family's in New Jersey. I grew out here in Marin, and eventually, and I went to high school here, and I have a couple few friends that I still stay in touch with, and that are from high school. Most people moved away, I think. But yeah, when I was in high school, I don't know, my mother got a disease, and she died right after I graduated. So when I was pregnant with our first kid, somehow I got part of a duplex. So that's why we're here. It's because when my mother died, she left me part of a house. And so we were able to actually move in. Mind you, we had to pay mortgage in Marin every month, which was insane. And so we were scrapping it. But yeah, we, moved up here, and our kids got to go to school up here and stuff. So that was neat.
If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah.
You had mentioned the D word, divorce.
Oh, yeah.
I've spoken to many artists, photographers, DJs, musicians, writers, painters, you name it. I've heard that word time and time again. So I know it happened when you were 11 months old. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, right? So I didn't actually go through it or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but in knowing that your parents did go through that experience, how do you think it shaped you in any manner?
I don't, as a musician, not for sure.
You'd be as a musician or just you
as a person.
Yeah.
Obviously it did. Growing up without your other parent is probably, I don't know. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I would get mad at my mother, I'd be like, one day my dad's going to come here and he's going to rescue me. My real parent's going to come and he really loves me. And, it's all fantasy because he was perfectly fine without me, I'm sure. So, he had his new wife and his kids and stuff. So.
And you still keep in touch with your father?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
So do you hold any resentment?
I think he just turned 84. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a really neat dude. And do I hold resentment? How could I?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even believe my parents were together to begin with, quite frankly. Yeah. My father's really a cool kind of conservative. He's like a Jewish doctor from New Jersey. He's literally a Jewish doctor from New Jersey. And my mother was just this crazy bohemian. I wrote a country album about her. Yeah. It's my mama is a cocaine cowgirl is literally one of the songs I wrote. She was a maniac. And she was really brilliant, but also at the same time she was just a lie, so I can't even imagine they were together to begin with.
Got it. Thank you for providing perspective. No, and I appreciate it. And that taps into this next quote I'm going to read here in a little bit from Brené Brown, a sense of belonging in the world. We'll get to it. But real quickly, Ryan, tell the listeners, where did you two meet?
We met. I was just starting out in music, and then I met this guy, and I agreed to play drums in his band, and we were playing for maybe a year or so, and we were auditioning singers. We couldn't find a singer. Like we kept rehearsing and rehearsing. We couldn't find a singer, and then Rebecca auditioned, and that was that. It's a classic story.
What year?
92, maybe 93.
I think it was 92. Yeah. It must have been 91 or 92 because I had just moved to Santa Cruz.
In Santa Cruz, okay.
Yeah. And right before that, I had told my grandmother, and actually this is embarrassing. This is my step grandmother. It was actually my stepmother's mother, but I didn't realize that she was my real grandmother until like really late. Like I never thought about it. She was just grandma. I never thought about it. And so I went to her and I was like, yeah, I think I want to join a band. And she said, what? You can't sing. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I can. And she's like, no. Well, I guess anybody could be in a band these days. And I was like, damn, coming for me. All right. Go grandma. But yeah, so I was not going to be intimidated. I was like, this is what I want to do, period. And I don't know why. Like, I genuinely don't know why I was so into it, but I absolutely was insistent. Like, I was going to join a band. And so I was asking around. Like, I would just talk about it, be like, guys, know anybody that know a band that needs a singer? And there was this guy I was working at a metaphysical bookstore cafe.
On Pacific?
Yes, the one. Gateways. Do you know it? So they used to have a cafe in Gateways.
Okay.
Do you know it?
No.
Okay, so Gateways Books. I think they're still there. It was on Pacific. Anyhoozle. I was working in the cafe and I had two bosses, Rada and Rumiel. And I don't remember which one called me in one day, but they were like, yeah, Rebecca, we need to talk to you. And I was like, what's going on? And they're like, we need to let you go. And I was like, what? What's wrong? What did I do? And they're like, you're too loud. And I was like, I'm too loud. Well, I mean, I could be quieter. They said, it's not your voice. It's the whole thing.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so that's the job where I met this guy. Like, this guy was working with me and he was like, yeah, I know a guy and he's got a band. And so he hooked us up. And so I tried out for this band and they never told me if I was in or not. They were just like, yeah, come back next week. We'll see what happens. We'll see. And so I was like, all right, I'll come back next week. And so I just kept coming back. And then I guess I was in the band and Ryan was the drummer at the time. And he did not like me at all. And he would never talk to me or even like make eye contact. So I kind of made a point of being like, hi, Ryan. How are you today? And it was just like so mean. Like, it was like aggressive niceness. It's just the whole.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's a great story. Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, it was a really good time. I mean, yeah, like I got fired, but I also got to be in the cool band. So
okay, so before we go deeper into the connection and relationship there, Ryan, tell the listeners, as far as growing up with music, being inspired by music, what was that for you and or family members? Did you have music playing around the house? Did you have to go seek it out on your own?
Well, when I was really, so I grew up with my mom and my stepdad. My actual dad lived in Northern California and he was a musician and he always was, he was very into music. I don't know. Like, he played synthesizers and he was in bands. And he lived in Monterey when I was really young, and I would come visit him, and he'd show me the old Devo videos and the Residents and stuff like that. And then when I was, maybe 12, I came up and we went to 7-Eleven, and this is right when California lottery started.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to 7-Eleven, he bought a ticket and he won $25,000 in the lottery.
So you know, right?
And he had always wanted to open a record store, to the point where his house literally had record bins in it full of records that he didn't even really like a lot of them. But so that allowed him to open his first record store, and he did that in Monterey, and I guess it was 85, 86. And so, every summer I would come and visit him. I'd work in the record store. And then eventually he got the idea to move to Santa Cruz, open the record store in Santa Cruz, which was really, then I decided to move up to live with my dad. And then that was in like 1990. I was about 16 years old, and I was opening boxes of import records and seeing, Cocteau Twins covers and going, oh, I wonder what this sounds like. My dad used to try and force music down my throat, and I would always not.
Reject it.
Yeah, I would always reject. He used to try and get me to listen like records that are now some of my favorite records ever, and I wouldn't want to hear them because he would insist that I'm going to love it. And so it was always there, and it was such a part of my life that I didn't even know that other people didn't respond to music in that way. It was just like a major part of my upbringing, really.
What were the names of these record stores?
In Monterey, it was called Record Asylum. So I should also say my dad was one of the people that opened Recycled Records in Monterey, which is still there.
On Lighthouse.
Yeah, it's still there. So one of my dad's very best friends, Jeff, was one of the original owners of. I actually, when the Kiss solo albums came out, I was sitting at the back counter of Recycled Records, opening boxes and unwrapping Peter Criss, right? So anyway, so that he did that, and then a few years later, and he won the lottery. He opened Record Asylum, and then when he moved to Santa Cruz right before the earthquake. He opened a store called Beat City, and that was in Santa Cruz from about 88 to 95.
Okay.
And yeah, so, and the earthquake obviously had a massive impact on the success of that, or the short time it was around.
I don't know where to go with this conversation because when I hear record stores, my ears just burn with energy.
Could you imagine living in one?
No.
Yeah, it was the record store in Santa Cruz was under a really, I don't know, you call it sleazy, let's say, residential hotel. And there was, so I used to sleep under the staircase up to the hotel. There was a little side room in the record store, and there were, it got bad for a few months, and I had to sleep in basically the stock room of the record store, which is under that. I'd hear these crack addicts walking up the staircase in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it was very Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's great.
It really, it was literally under the staircase. I remember. What was crazy is I have this weird memory of I was gonna borrow a Sea Feel album from you, and you were like, yeah, let me go get it, and I followed you, and you were like, hold on, it's in my bedroom, and it goes under the stairs, and it's under this little Harry Potter staircase. It was crazy, and he's like, here you go, Sea Feel.
But I never saw any of that as anything other than
right.
Excellent. I loved it, and there were a lot of things that were going on in my family life at that time that were not great, but I still just, just that whole, the energy of that store and the people that worked there.
Yeah.
There were just a lot of great people, and they really helped me out. I had some really, really challenging things happen at that time. And there was so much that so many people that stepped up and, just having that community there, like, got me through it. It was amazing. And to the point where I think I maybe didn't take some things as seriously as I should have, and
Right.
stuck around longer than I should have just because I had such a strong group of people around me that were willing to help me. So yeah, it's pretty good.
That is so fascinating. Okay, so for you, Rebecca, what about you and music? When did you first really understand, wow, this music is having a tremendous effect on me, and I'm not even sure why, or maybe you do know why.
I think it was right around the time I was like 10 or something. I feel like the first band that I ever really connected with, where I was like, this is my band, was Daryl Hall and John.
Me too.
I was so into Hall and Oates.
The cassette, the K-Tel cassette.
Hell yes. I remember this one time my mother accidentally moved all my records out of her records. She was like, I don't want them touching. So she moved and she put them accidentally in front of a heat register, like a heater, and they all warped. And I was like, why? And it was like Hall and Oates. I remember just weeping. Yeah, and I used to have a Hall and Oates poster in my room and everything. So that for me, that was like it.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I kind of started, I mean, we grew up before the internet. And so, you got to listen to what you owned or what someone loaned you, or if someone made you a mixtape, your options were limited, or what was on the radio. And so at a certain point, I started getting desperate and digging through my mother's albums, and I would found some stuff that I was super into, but I was like, it was I couldn't explain why it had an effect on me, but it did, stuff like I remember she had a Nina Simone record that I was like, okay, apparently I like jazz now. Like, okay.
Real heavy
And
jazz.
yeah, and I really connected with, like, there was an Al Green album that I couldn't get enough of. To this day, like, if I'm having a really bad day, Al Green is gonna save that day. Yeah, and there was, I mean, I even listened to stuff where I was like, "This is kinda hard to listen to, but I'm gonna get through it," you know? So I listened to some Bob Dylan that I wasn't, like, super into, but I was like, "We could do this." And sometimes, if you go like, "Oh, hey, could you sing a little bit for Mike?" The first thing that always comes into my head is a Bob Dylan song, and I'm always like, "No, we're not gonna do that when we gotta push that aside." Yeah. So it was a mishmash of, like, what I was hearing on the radio, and also around the time I was 10, which was right around the time I was kinda coming online musically, we actually got a television. I was allowed to watch TV for the first time. And so, previously it had only been, like, if a babysitter, you know, had one in her house, or I was over at a friend's house, I could watch TV. But then MTV happened in '83. I was born in '73. I mean, 80. And anyway, so right around that time, I started watching, music videos, and that kinda, I think, helped with the Daryl Hall and John Oates-ness.
Well, that and Prince and Michael Jackson.
And Madonna, yeah.
Yeah.
It all happened. '83 was, like, an amazing year for music. Aside from MTV and everything, it was just a great year for music.
And let's not forget about Duran Duran.
Let's not.
Yeah. So going back to Santa Cruz, when you two had kind of started to build the foundation of your friendship and relationship, what
Oh,
was
no, that was not, we were not friends.
not at all, because you were
No,
still trying to
absolutely
get
not.
his attention.
No, yeah, he was not. It was, honestly, there was a whole lot that had to happen in between that before we became friends. And in fact, he moved into the house that I was living in San Francisco, like 2 or 3 years later. And that was when we became friends.
Okay.
Isn't that wild?
It is wild. But I do want to know, in Santa Cruz at that time period, what was the music scene like?
Do you want to take this one?
What was the music scene in Santa Cruz like?
Yeah.
Like as far as bands
I could take
it was there were from my perspective, I mean, I worked in the cool record store in the town, and there were a lot of punk bands, hardcore bands. Like the records that we sold the most of were like Minor Threat.
Yep.
We sold a lot of the two-tone
yep.
stuff, the dance craze, right? So it's like a lot of reggae, ska, punk, and then the bands that toured through, because the venue, the Catalyst there, it was just and none of it appealed to me at all, and there wasn't, as far as this the stuff that anyone that's listening to this that knows our music, there was nothing. We weren't getting anything locally. There was no community of bands that were like what I was interested in. But that, I think, is what has honestly been one of the things that's always pushed me forward, is the lack of the thing that I want. It's like, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. And so I was into punk when I was skateboarding a few years earlier. When I moved up to Santa Cruz, all the punks were like vegans, and it was a very strange thing. Punk to me, was one thing, and what it was there was just different. It wasn't worse or anything. It was just, I didn't connect with it.
Yeah.
And I'd never even heard reggae before I moved to Santa Cruz. I didn't even know what it was.
Hey, Mr. Chin, every day you give me Pepsi.
Literally. I mean, I was raised.
He didn't come from the Bay Area.
Yeah, I was raised, when I was in Southern California, I was very sheltered in a lot of ways. So, so that stuff was interesting, going to Santa Cruz High and all the surfers were playing reggae and stuff. I just couldn't relate to it. And I didn't even, I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it. I just didn't know what it was. And it's, I was just like, what? This seems strange for a bunch of white dudes to be listening to this stuff, but I didn't understand it. And I get it now, that it's just a fun, like a kind of celebratory music. But when I was a teenager, I was just like, it doesn't have enough drum machines in it for me.
And so the music that you were gravitating towards was like what, 4AD music?
Well, like I said, when I was really young, before my dad had his record stores, he had always had a room in his house with all of his synthesizers. And when I'd visit him, he'd just throw a futon over all the cables and I would just sleep there. So he would, when I was a real little kid, like 5 years old, he would send me Gary Newman and Devo and, John Fox and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, again, I didn't know that this was not everybody's experience. I just thought everybody knew that music. So that's what I remember he played me, I don't know what Depeche Mode it was, but that was obviously the thing that, they were just so much catchier than everybody else. So it was like, okay, I guess I'm into this kind of music. And so there was a long period where I just liked electronic music, because my family that I lived with in Southern California, it was just classic rock.
Okay.
And which I like, but I was ready, as a kid, plus it was my dad, who I thought was the coolest person on the planet, so that was what I was into. So like I say, when I finally started working at the record store as a teenager, that was right around the time too, when, Front 242, Skinny Puppy, stuff like that was at its height. And that it was amazing, but it took my love of electronic music and my overflowing amount of anger that I had and slammed it right together perfectly. obsessed with that for a good few years. My dad and I went and saw Skinny Puppy in 1990. And it was that I just couldn't imagine more perfect music than that, because the energy of it was exactly the kind of energy that I felt, I was afraid of real instruments just because they seemed so boring to me. So I loved, it was like everything I loved about the Sex Pistols and Exploited and all those punk bands, but it was electronic. It was great.
I can't believe you just told us that you went to a Skinny Puppy concert with your father. Now, maybe that's a thing people did.
Hold up. His father's name was Speed. Does that make it add up more? No, that was his actual birth certificate name. On his license, that was his name. His name was Speed.
That's good.
Yeah, the math adds up when you know that.
That is so good. So when I saw Skinny Puppy for the Too Dark Park tour, I think I could, to this day, those images that were shown whilst Ogre and company were singing, it scarred me.
Aww.
And so we used to have at the record store, I would organize in-store signings and stuff. So I would just call, this again, before the internet, I would just look on the back of records and call the phone numbers, and I would call Network Records and whatever. And so we had Ogre and everybody do in-store signings and whatever. And that's, one of the Halou, when we signed to Network, it was just because of that. I mean, I just was like, we're only going to sign to either Network or 4AD. I mean, there's really only two labels that matter. And it was, just my obsession with, being in among those other bands that I just identified with. It wasn't even, I don't know that it was even the music as much, because Skinny Puppy, as much as I loved them back then, I don't listen to their records all the time, but I knew they were people like me, and I've since, hung out with a lot of people from a lot of those different bands, and I was right 100%. It's just people that were just, came from similar backgrounds, and confused and angry and whatever. And it's funny that all of that came through. And so I chased it hard in those days.
Wow. Okay. This is so good. Wasn't expecting all this. This is why we call it Surprise Cast. Okay. So I want to start reading some quotes here. And Rebecca, this one goes to you first. And this comes from a book that I mentioned earlier called Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown, Meaningful Connection and the Language of Human Experience.
Wow.
Here we go. This is one of her chapters where she's talking about belonging. Brené says this: true belonging is the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being a part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is.
That's heavy because, when I think about it,
yeah,
when I was younger, I definitely thought that belonging was external. That if other people would accept me, then I would belong. And I did not feel like I belonged because I didn't feel like that universal acceptance. There were a few areas in my life where I did feel accepted and loved and just like welcomed. And one of the kind of, I don't know if I'm going to give a shout out or something to someone, but like when I was younger, I felt like the gay community really welcomed my family in. And it was because my mother got the AIDS, and she got it really early on. And when I mentioned that she died of a disease, that was the disease. And that was actually an area of study of hers also. So it was kind of like, there you go, So she was so like the gay community, if ever she was, she found out about an experimental drug, it was because, someone told her. It wasn't, it was definitely like, anyway, long story short, that was the first time that I ever really felt like, oh, this is a community and now I belong to it. And I think that that's transferred into my adult life too, where it's like a lot of my chosen family are gay. And I think it's just because it's like, that's my first family. That's who I know, you know what I mean? And so I'm just like, oh, I connect. But also the first time I felt like I belonged, it's like, was when I was in a band and I was like, we're all in this together. We're all working on the same thing together. But it wasn't until very recently, like past 10 years, that I felt the kind of belonging that she's describing in that quote, where, I walk into a room and I belong. I walk into a meeting and I belong because I'm here. I'm in myself and I belong here. So I belong.
So with that sense of belonging, if you don't mind me continuing this part.
Yeah, go for it.
So with the sense of belonging in the music world, in that community, as a female.
Oh, wow.
Tell me more about that.
Okay. That I got to be honest, the 90s were not great. The 90s kind of fucking sucked. and women were mean to each other, and I'm not, I didn't even, I always felt like I was like really shy and really scared of other bands and like scared to reach out and scared to talk to them. And so if you weren't immediately like, welcome, I'd be like, they hate me. So, and that was a lot of me. It was right here. The problem was here. But I do remember, like, we played a show in LA and I was so excited to play with this band because the singer was really cool. Still is really cool. Wow, her voice. Anyway, so I went and I was like so excited to go meet her. And I went and knocked on the door. And then I heard like a big kerfuffle happening. And they were having like this big knockdown, drag out, like vocal fight. And like it was just full diva time. And so like I ducked and ran. And so like that was my one time of like really, like being excited to meet another person and then being really scared and running away. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the 90s weren't awesome. Recently, I've been having an amazing time. And the people that we play shows with, like invariably they're amazing. And I love that, like, there's all these little communities. I used to feel like things were really scene based. And like, if you were trying to play with a Britpop band and you weren't Britpop, then they didn't want anything to do with you. Oh no, you're too shoegaze. Oh no, you're too trip hop. Oh no, you're too whatever. And now it's like, I feel like genres just don't matter as much. It's more vibe.
Yes.
And yeah. And so, the bands that we've played with, the bands that I've met, the bands that I reach out to on the internet, like people are so nice. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so glad that like the kids who are coming up today get a much better community to come up in. And I'm not sure if 100% of that is true or if it's all like I was super crazy and scared of everybody. I'm not positive how much. Like other people who lived in the 90s might have a different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely had a tough time reaching out to other musicians in the 90s and the early 2000s. That being said, in the early 2000s, we had a really hard time reaching out in general, just because we were also parents of small kids. And so, but we did have a few bands that we really, really loved and are still friends with. And one of them is Sweet Trip. And they were just the sweetest, nicest again, people that you ever care to meet. They were phenomenal. And we absolutely loved touring with them and hanging out with them. And they even babysat our kids one time.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think whether it's up here or not, it's still your truth. It's your experience and what you observed of the world at that time. And that's a very fascinating reflection on that. And I'm very thankful that you shared that. Because again, I imagine a musician who's listening to this right now thinking, yeah, during that time, maybe, yeah, a sense of belonging was difficult being a female. I don't think you're alone.
I'll give you this one. How about this?
Yeah.
One time I went into I forgot the name of the guitar store. It was right near your work. Anyway, it was on Pacific. And I went in there and I had cash in my hand. Like I was ready. I'd saved up cash and I was going to buy a bass. And I was so excited. And I stood at the counter with cash in my little hot fist for who knows how long. And I'm standing there. I mean, like a dick, just standing there waiting for somebody to acknowledge me. And I'm like, I have cash. I have cash. Nobody wanted to look at me. And finally, this dude I knew happened to wander in and he's like, hey, how you doing? And he stands next to me and starts chit-chatting. And suddenly, like, salespeople flock because there's a man there. And I was like, damn.
Wow.
Is that what it's going to take to get my money? All right. So I actually did not end up buying a bass that day. And I was like, fuck all y'all, because I was so, and you know, it was really clear that as long as I was standing there with this body, I was not going to be acknowledged until that dude came in. And it's not like they were doing anything.
Right. Sure. Now, let's try this one on.
All right.
If you were in a record store,
oh Lord,
it would be very different, don't you think?
Back then?
Yeah.
I
Being
don't
a
know.
female, gazing for records, whatever. I think they would be on you just as fast as like that. No.
So his record store, everybody was like really cool, like cool before cool was cool. And so you'd walk in there and I'd walk up with like, hi, I'd like to buy this L7 CD. Like a complete nerd. And they'd be like, yeah, we'll ring it up.
Oh, hi for
like
that.
really, like lots of tude. There was this one woman who worked there who used to lounge on the counter like a sphinx. And she it was delicious. It was amazing. It was fantastic. And I'd walk up and I'd be like, hi, I'd like to buy a CD. Yeah, like it was like really intimidating. There was one guy that used to work there who one of my besties was obsessed with. And I guess he had, what was it? He was roadied or something for Metallica. And so she was like, oh my God, dude. Because that's how she talks. Dude, you would not believe he roadied for Metallica. He's so cool, dude. And so she would go and she'd like worship at his shrine. And that was the thing. I mean, if you worked at a record store back in it was like really cool. And so it was intimidating, just period. Like that was intimidating. And so, and I don't think at his record store, there was a lot of like, it was mostly like, yes, you may come worship. It wasn't a lot of like aggressive, go get 'em type stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least not for me.
Ryan, you ready for a quote? Yeah, go for it. I'm going to give Ryan a quote here.
Yes, please.
Okay. So this comes from the book, Creative Active Way being written by Rick Rubin. And in this chapter, he is talking about setting. Here we go. We are affected by our surroundings, and finding the best environment to create a clear channel is personal and to be tested. It also depends on your intention. Isolated places like forest, monastery, or a sailboat in the middle of an ocean are fine locations to receive direct transmissions from the universe. If instead you want to tune into the collective consciousness, you might sit in a busy spot with people coming and going and experience source as filtered through humanity. One step further removed might be to plug into the culture itself, constantly consuming art, entertainment, news, and social media. So for the band, Ryan, how does setting play a role in finding inspiration? Or does it?
It doesn't.
Okay.
I'm as opposite to Rick Rubin as they come. I'll tell you that. Yeah, I've never. I admire people like him, and he would be great to have in a room with us when you're working on a record, because I don't bring that kind of energy at all. I'm much more. I've always approached music the way I approached baseball and skateboarding when I was a kid. It was like, I just have a goal and I'm like trying to learn a trick. This is probably the best way to say it, like a skateboarding trick.
Yep.
And again, growing up in and around record stores, I heard everything, and I was. It would always, maybe that's the setting. I don't know, but that always just, the whole time I was in the record store, like working a shift or whatever, I just couldn't wait to get home and turn on my music equipment and make my own music. It would drive me insane. I would literally have a pad of paper and just write down ideas that I could do when I got home. And that's really hasn't changed. I mean, still the main thing that gets me to work on a new record or whatever is usually just thinking of a new approach, or I have some new piece of gear or whatever. I don't tune into some creative force or anything like that. I just, it's not because I don't want to, it's just kind of foreign to me, that whole idea. I've never really been that kind of, that kind of person.
And just to clarify, so what you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, the universe doesn't call for you to go to the ocean and find inspiration.
No, I mean, I wish it did, but just it's way more of just a tactile thing for me. Like, in fact, the last couple years, the project has really been to just focus on the guitar a lot, and that immediacy is, is doing the trick these days, just because it's like, it's like sparring or playing baseball or, just everything else I've done. It feels athletic, and I need that sensation when I'm, doing whatever I'm doing. It's in this case, we're talking about music. I have to turn it into a sport almost. And I'm, in this case, sort of competing with myself, can I make something happen that's interesting?
With Halou, thank you, by the way, with the creation of these songs, are you a perfectionist, Ryan? Are you like what I like to call Stanley Kubrick of music?
I have been. I've gone through those phases, but I'm at my worst when I'm that way.
Okay.
We made one record that is the result of that mindset that I'm not super proud of. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I'm proud of it, but it just doesn't stand as the result of a mindset that I'm happy about. I know enough technically these days to where even if I'm making it from a weird place, it still comes out listenable. But my favorite things that we've done are way more instinctive, where it's just my response to, again, being in front of a piece of gear that I'm not entirely comfortable with, and being the right combination of naive and knowledgeable in equal supply. And then not only do I think the music is better, but I enjoy it more, and maybe it's the enjoyment that makes the music better. I don't know.
But how did you learn that you were being too granular about things, too nitpicky? Did someone bring this to your attention, or were you like, wait, I got to pull back?
Yeah, I mean, my wife brought it to my attention for sure. But I mean, I knew it also, but it's just, when your grip is too tight, anything that you do with white knuckles you're doing it wrong. That's just, it's like maybe the only wisdom I know. And, I was just so focused on it all being exactly this certain way. And it's funny because it's so easy to see that obviously you're never going to get it exact. And so you're always going to be disappointed. And it's so much more fun to go in without expectation and come out with something that you're surprised by because you didn't have it didn't go according to plan. But, I just, I really, I always say I really have to learn lessons very painfully. Knowledge is nothing to me. I have to learn something in my bones. Like I literally have to break my arm, or, you get punched in the face or whatever. And then I go, oh, okay. So what you've been saying 500 times, I now understand.
Hey, at least you're honest.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know who I am now. Took a while.
Yeah. You found your authentic self. That's great. Can we can we listen to a few songs here?
Yep.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do, listeners. We're going to listen to 2 tracks back to back. The first one is called The Diver. The second one is Assassination. And then we're going to have our 2 guests talk about them any fashion they like. Let's take a listen. The Diver first.
And my actions prove a meaning.
Okay. So now that we have heard these two songs, and not in its full glory, but nice appetizers, snippets, if you will, do you want to give us a little backstory to these songs? Anything you want to share?
Those two songs are a good example of like simplicity, they're not overwrought. There's not a lot of, virtuosity or whatever on display. It was really just trying to make a beautiful thing and an emotional thing.
And you did.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, from my perspective, it's as simple as that. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I feel the same way. We're very targeted in our like approach to both of those songs.
Tell us a little bit about your vocal work and how that has matured, grown over time. Do you feel more confident in your vocals?
I do actually, because I suppose it's interesting because I'm an older lady now, and I suppose your voice is supposed to degrade at a certain point, but I haven't gotten there yet, which is great. And in fact, every year I feel like I'm gifted a new thing. In my 30s, I suddenly got this new high note that I'd never had before. And I was like, well, thank you very much. Now I know how to do that. And in my 40s, at some point, I got a new low note. And I was like, well, this is awesome. Look at me go. And I feel like in my 50s, I've learned how to kind of control my volume differently. And I have more control over my high notes. I have more control over my low notes, and I've got volume that I didn't used to be able to get as confidently, as comfortably. And in these songs, my approach with Assassination, and I should say with all songs, what I usually do is Ryan will come up with a sketch of something, and usually if I come up with a melody, I'll come up with it right away, and then we'll record a demo of that and build from there. But sometimes he'll come up, he'll keep playing it for me, and I don't come up with something right away, maybe. And eventually he's got a whole song and he hands it off to me, and it's a sketch of a whole song. And at that point, I think to myself, well, what do I think of? Like, how do I feel? How do I feel when I listen to this song? And I try to kind of tap into, like, when was the last time I felt this way? When was the last time right? Or what do I think of when I feel this way? And then that's what I write about immediately. Like that, if I have an immediate thought, like, oh, that's obviously the topic of the song. And then I write about that. And in both of these cases, it was kind of like that, where I was like, how do I,
Mm-hmm.
I know what it is. And so I do feel like and I like that you picked those two songs, just because those were two where I feel like I really had a connection with the feeling of the song, like a feeling that one gets when listening to those chords. And then I was able to, for myself, tap into it. And typically, if I'm able to tap into it, then I feel like I'm able to express it in a way that other people can connect with it as well. Like, I'm able to communicate it.
With the Big Hole EP and A Visitor's View EP, was that designed specifically? We're just going to make these 3 or 4 tracks, put them separate in different EPs? Or did you toy around with, we're going to merge and maybe have an album? Or what's the approach with these songs?
So we've actually been, it is an album.
Okay.
We've been releasing them one at a time, every 4 to 6 weeks. And we're just, what we're doing is like, we're building. So each time we release, we're just releasing them all again.
Gotcha.
And so each time you're getting closer to the full album. until you finally get the full album. That being said, we have a really hard time sticking to any plans because we're really mercurial, I suppose. So we change our minds a lot, and we, get on a jag, we get a mood. And so we recently, do you want to talk a little bit about the new stuff we're about to release? That's like totally different that we were not planning on. And now we're like, that's what we're releasing next. So we're pausing the album that we're releasing, and we're releasing a remix album of the album, but it's not just a remix album because each song we're treating, it's like, yeah, it's a remix, but then I wrote new vocals on top that make it kind of a totally new song.
Wow.
I know, isn't that weird?
Okay,
So-
Ryan, do you want to share anything else?
We made a record last year called The Butcher's Bill, which was the first record that we made as just a live band. There's no synthesizers on it or anything. And I've always wanted to make a record where I wanted to just remix an entire record. It basically like a dub version of a record, sort of. And so I don't know. I just started it one day. I mean, I had a health scare earlier this year, and it sort of helped me to realize that, like, you can't just go, one day I'm going to do this thing. You just have to do these things. And so I just started doing it. And so I remixed every song, the Butcher's Bill, and I did it all electronically. So I took the multi-tracks. So I had everything we recorded, but then I made it, it's all totally different. And then from there, I mean, everything was so different that I started to go, okay, well, let's get some new vocals on these songs. And then we just started getting carried away with that. And it's like, well, let's just think of these as completely new things. And then it's like I was saying before, you just find yourself in a totally new place. Okay, this is a thing we've never done. And I compare it to our first record, and then we made a record under our own names, RR Cosboom. It's just these different methods of working bring out a different kind of, reaction. I don't know what you say. It's just, it makes you think in a different way. Sure. And so that's really what I'm interested in capturing. The thing, the perfectionist in me comes out when I'm doing the same thing. I made a record one way. You're asking me to make another record the same way. And then the next record the same way. I'm just going to try to refine, and it's just, that is not fun to me. I'm much more instinctive than like a craftsman, I mean, I don't want to be that, I don't want to be a virtuoso for that reason. If it happens along the way, that's great, but I don't want to do it. And so I feel like this thing that we're making, we've never made anything like it before, so we're absolute beginners again. And that's the feeling that is my heroine. I love feeling like a complete beginner, like there's no signpost because I don't know anybody else who's made a record that way. I know records that I was thinking of, like, Primal Scream remixed their whole record, in the 90s, and like, and I love that thing. And I thought I was using that as my sort of like, we're just going to fuck the songs up the way they did. But then it just went somewhere totally different. And that's cool.
It's funny. I thought of Swallow, where they did Blow and then Blowback. And then Blowback was like an album of its own, So when he first started playing me these remixes, I was like, bruh, I should record some vocals on these. Like these are songs. These aren't just remixes.
So if I heard both of you correctly, this approach that you enjoy is this kind of being lost, starting over. Where are we going to go with this? We'll figure it out. We don't have a roadmap. We don't have parameters. The ambiguity, we can swim in it.
Wow, you nailed it.
Okay.
And no, but for real.
Who are we going to disappoint? We're we're like 30 years into, whatever it is that we're doing. And something like this to me just, I mean, it's a world at this point that we've made, all these records, and we don't have one like this yet. So that to me is the thing that I'm chasing, is like, what haven't we done yet? That's why we made the records with the band and played these show. We played the show that you saw. I don't remember exactly which one it is, but that was probably us playing as a live band songs that 15, 20 years ago we played electronically. And that is again the same thing. It's sort of a backwards remix, It's like that's fun, man. Who wouldn't have fun doing that? Because it's like all these problems that you have to solve, and you don't get a chance to just sit there and decide what the perfect microphone is or whatever. You gotta figure out how to play the damn song.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Which transitions to the last part of this conversation, and it is the live performance. So, as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this podcast, I finally saw you perform about a month and a half ago in the city with Waves Crashing and Soft Science. Opened up, I think. Tiny venue, loved it. And I remember I was just had my drink there, right there by the front of the stage. And the first thing I noticed was the aesthetics with your performance. I think it was all kind of in red, bathed in red. And that automatically set the vibe that you alluded to earlier. The vibe is really important. So with your live performances, tell us a little bit about that mindset, that mentality, that approach. What is it that you want the audience to feel, if that is important to you?
Wow. That is a heavy question. What do we want them to feel? So the very first thing is like, I feel like when you're walking into the room, when we get on stage, the room has to be a different room. We have to make the room our own room. So you're coming into our room now.
I see.
And we've always done this. We have always been like, the vibe that we have on stage, the room that we have on stage has always been super important. And even when we, can't afford to have like a full light show or whatever, we'll make it happen, And I've come up with some really clever stuff over the years to make like pennies into pounds, where I used to hang up nightgowns and illuminate nightgowns and stuff like that. Like so it gives you a vibe, like where you walk in and you're like, damn, that's ghostly. Okay, let's go. And so you're right, though, the light, we really have to have a vibe. And I feel like once you set the mood, then people are more receptive to what it is that there is going to come in their ear holes once their eye holes are pretty much sated. But, and also I have to say another thing, like, I usually put a little effort into my outfit. I put a little effort into, I'm not going to show up in jeans and a t-shirt just because I want you to know that it's like, I've never been religious or anything, but you know how people dress up for church? It's like that. Like, I dress up for you. Like, I dress up, I'm going to be my best self for you, because it's not just a Tuesday for me. It's a special moment. And so, and then once, we've got everything right, then I feel like you'll be more receptive to what's going in your ear holes. I should say, I also, this is so ridiculous, I also care about smells, and I'm not as good at this as I want to be, but I do have smells that I bring. And back in the old days, I used to light incense and stuff because I was like, man, it smells like cigarettes in here. I can't be having people listening to us when it smells like butt. Like, it's got to smell nice too. And so I would like light incense.
But that's so smart because you're
Yeah.
only enhancing that experience for yourself, which is going to emanate somehow out into the world. The fans are, yes.
Yeah. Like, I want all of your senses to be
Yeah.
taken care of.
And I remember during your performance that night, I remember you talking to the audience and expressing such gratitude.
Well, yeah.
But that doesn't always happen. You were very appreciative of the moment and the fact that people would, I forgot what night it was on, but people would take their time and go see, and spend their money and park and do all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've been to shows and the person on you're watching doesn't say a word, and you're like,
and and I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're not. For me, this is like really making music is really important, and the fact that there's someone out there who wants to listen to it is amazing to me. Like, that's so awesome. And I have to tell you, when when people buy CDs from us or albums, like vinyl albums, I write a little thank you note and I put it in there. And like, I literally write a whole note and I put it in there. And like, sometimes I'll put a little extra little gift, like, if like they put something sweet in their order, like something really sweet in their order, say like they wrote a little note to us. And so I was like, duh, of course you're getting a bunch of stuff. But yeah. Some guy actually just emailed me today and he was like, I can't even believe you're handling your own orders. I'm like, of course I'm handling my own orders, you sweetheart. But yeah, it was like, I'm so grateful for every single person who's listening to us. And like that guy who emailed me today, he said, I first listened to you in 2002. Can you imagine? He grew up with me.
Yeah.
That's crazy. There's this guy who flies up from Mexico City. Like, what the hell?
Wow.
He flies up to see us from Mexico City.
Wow.
That's insane.
What a great connection.
Of course I'm grateful, right? Like, that's bonkers. Like, God.
Ryan, how do you view live shows? What's your thoughts? Is it something that you can't wait to do? Or you're like, what? Yeah, give us a little.
I've changed a lot over the years. When we used to bring laptops and all of that, I wasn't able to enjoy it as much. Now it's I train a lot, for fighting and whatever, and then you compete, and it's like a demonstration of your ability. I think of, Halou on record is one thing, and then for the people that that can come to our shows geographically, or they should get to see something that's as good but different. And I'm the people that we play with, I'm probably, honestly, not probably, I am the least gifted musician in our live band, and I love being able to trust the other musicians in the band so that I can focus on what I'm doing. Because, Rebecca is the sort of the emotional connection that people have to the band. And so I like the fact that we behind her are playing everything reliably, and, and I love the sound of the band so that she can just be up there. And like you said, you noticed her connection to the audience. That's an important part of it that I'm incapable of and not really that interested in, I'm so almost like, kind of autistic in that, like, I'm not, nobody's ever like, emotionally connecting with me really. So, we're just back there, like, trying to make it sound great, and then she's doing what she does, and that's good.
And that was such a wonderful night because if I'm not mistaken, I think Soft Science opened up and they just have such lovely personalities
Oh, they
and then
do.
Waves Crashing Josh and his band came in and I was so excited to see them all the way from Olympia, Washington. And they really produced that vibe. And then they kind of hand the baton off to you, your band, and you just kind of ran with it. And so, yeah, it was a really, really wonderful night of music. So hats off to you.
Those are great bands, by the way, and really nice folks.
Yes.
Like, wow. I don't know. So playing that venue, there is no backstage. There's this little closet. So all of our stuff, all of our cases, all of our instruments when we were not on stage were packed into maybe 3x4 closet. And so to have, like, that's a lot. If you were talking earlier about vulnerability, talk about being vulnerable, like your prized possessions are there jammed in with their prized possessions. And you got to know that the people are cool. And they were really, really cool. So that was nice.
Yeah. Toast to them. And so what's coming down the line for the band for the rest of the year? I think you had mentioned maybe a show or two.
Yeah, we're going to be releasing a lot more songs. So every 4 to 6 weeks, we got something. Oh, yeah.
Great.
And that's like for the foreseeable future. And then we've got one show that's confirmed. We're going to be playing the DNA Lounge, which is a fantastic kind of historic venue in San Francisco, is celebrating a big anniversary. And it'll be November 21st, and it's the 40th anniversary of the DNA Lounge. And we've been playing there 30 years, 20 years. and we absolutely love that place. In fact, it may be the venue that we've played more than any other venue in San Francisco. And so we're really grateful to be asked to play their anniversary party. And we brought along with us 2 bands I'm super excited about. The first band, they're called Hectorine. William, you got to check out Hectorine. You got to check out Hectorine, okay? So just like we're going to have a moment here, you got to check them out. It's my girl right there. Their new album is, it's like, it's giving me Roxy Music vibes. It's giving me Annie Lennox vibes. Yeah. It's a whole situation. So for sure, check out their new album or her new album. And then the other band is called Identical Homes. And that's your pal. Will you tell them all about it?
Yeah, it's just a friend of mine. They're like a electronic band.
Yeah.
We don't play with a lot of electronic bands anymore, so it's cool to have.
Okay.
And they just put out a record that I really like, and I'm excited to see them live. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And
Okay.
and they're kind of like, if I may, like, are they kind of bordering on electro gaze, if you will? Kind of a little like, if electronic music were shoegaze, we get electro gaze, kind of a little bit bordering on.
I like that.
So that's going to be fun. And then the cool thing about this show is that there's a bunch of rooms in the DNA Lounge. They've got the big room downstairs. They've got a dance room that's right behind it. There's the Dazzle room. Then there's the upstairs, the DNA. Every single one has an event. So you get one ticket, boom, you get all of the events. So that's going to be a super fun show. And then we got asked to play another show also at the DNA, weirdly, in December, but I'm not sure which date it's going to be at. So we'll announce that when they confirm it. It's between 2 dates, and we'll see. But yeah, for the rest of the year, we're pretty chill, just releasing music and playing that one show that's confirmed, and then maybe one other, and that's it.
Where can people check out your music, your band information?
We've got an old school website, halou.com, HALOU. And then we're on all this streaming stuff, and we have a Bandcamp page. We used to have, we've done a lot of side projects and stuff, but you can find all that on the internet. There's if you like what you hear, you will be you will have plenty to listen to.
It is true.
We've been around.
Yeah, it could be intimidating. I feel like we need to do start here. If you like, start here.
Go there. I love it. Love it. Okay. This just about to wrap it up. Any albums, any movies, old or new, any podcasts you're listening to, any TV shows, any charity organizations you want to shout out?
I actually, you know what? I wanted to thank you. So recently I kind of I've been trying to depoliticize a lot and get so I had been donating to a bunch of political organizations. I was like, I'm pulling out. That's it. And I've started to look into getting more let's talk community. Let's get local. And I did some research and I kind of got a little lazy in it in my efforts. And you asking me that question, because you were like, I'm going to ask you about a local organization. So made me go, well, I got to get on the damn stick. I got to do it. And so there's an organization that I used to volunteer at when I was little. And I was like, they're still around. I'm going to check them back out again. So I'm actually signed up to go work in the food pantry on Wednesday of next week. It'll be my first time back. And we'll see how it goes. If they're still super cool, but they were really cool. They offer so many great things to the community. It's called the Ritter House, and their whole thing is preventing homelessness before it happens, but then also once you are homeless, trying to give you support and service. They have street medicine. They've got, health clinics. They've got, you name it, they've got it. And of course the food pantry that I'll be checking out. And they've also, they've got services to help you. If you are about to lose your place, here's, emergency funds. They've got, if you're looking for a place, you need a place because you lost your place, services. So yeah, they're an amazing place, Ritter House. And yeah, so thank you for asking that, because it made me hop on that stick, get back on the pogo stick.
Thank you for sharing, and we won't go down that path. I think that I'm glad to hear that there are organizations that continue to try to help ease the burden.
Yeah. In this economy?
Yeah. It's really tough. Ryan, do you want to share anything? Any recommendations?
We talked about a lot of different music. No, not really.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of movies. We went and saw the Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
I'm seeing it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You're going to have a fun time. I'm sorry, the most irresponsible movie of the year?
I can't wait. I'm seeing it on the IMAX.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's the way to do it.
Okay. So you enjoyed it, right?
Oh yeah. All of his movies they're just we're in a, as Rebecca alluded to, people have all kinds of problems with the direction we're headed in or not headed in as a society. But just like the 70s, when people felt that way, the movies have never been better. So there's a lot of good ones out there.
But also now's the time that you reach into your community, get local, because that's what it's about. Yeah.
And I'm sensing people really are clinging more to that. I was just up in Seattle visiting my friend, and his wife was just talking about that same thing. They're trying to go micro.
Yeah.
Because they realize the macro, it's out of their control.
Exactly.
Their environment is right here within a 2-mile radius. So that's where they're putting all their eggs in that basket.
Yeah, you feel like you can't make a difference. Well, you can make a difference, but it's not up there.
Thank you, both
of you.
Thank you. I'm going to end it with one more quote, but this time nobody's going to say a damn word. Again, this comes from the book Creative Active Way of Being. Thank you to my guests. Halou, Ryan, Rebecca. Nice to meet you. Here we go.
Nice to meet you.
It's called openness. Our minds seek rules and limits. In attempting to navigate a large, uncertain world, we develop beliefs that give us a coherent framework, reduced options, and a false sense of certainty. Before civilization, the natural world was far more dangerous. In order for humans to survive, we had to assess situations and parse information quickly. This survival instinct persists today. With the overwhelming amount of information available to us, we are more reliant than ever on categorization, labeling, and shortcuts. Few have the time and expertise to evaluate each new choice with a completely open, unbiased mind. Something to think about. My name is W. Again, William, host of Surprise Cast. And remember this, everyone. Great music is all around us. All you have to do is keep your ears open. Ciao.